Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to?
Welcome to Street Talk. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki. And on Street Talk, we deal with political, social, and economics here in Michigan, across the U.S., and abroad. Now, joining me tonight,
Dennis Burnside.
Baba Kuba Kweku, Willie Davis.
All right, man. We got a lot to talk about, but it's going to be about Malcolm X.
All right.
All right.
Yes,
Go ahead.
Indeed. This is his 100th birthday, and I look at it as a day to not only to celebrate his birthday, but to help develop organizing strategies to deal with our current socioeconomic and political situation. So this is a day to assess where we are and what we need to do. So I think that's what Malcolm would want. You know, he would want us to do more than celebrate. He would want us to be actually active in the struggle to achieve our liberation by any means necessary.
You know, one of the things that every time I read some, hear some, and I got about 6 books on Malcolm, some of the same things he was saying, along with Dr. King and many others during this time, it's still happening now.
Well, in the scheme of things, it hasn't been that long. I mean, well within my lifetime, I remember as a little boy seeing Malcolm X on TV and having this fascination with this man and why he appeared so ready to fight and almost mean. You know, I was, at the time of his death, I think I was 7, 8 years old. So I really didn't know him, but I know he made an impact on me. Like, this man is strong. He's mad about something. And at that age, you don't know anything about politics or life to understand why anyone would be dissatisfied. It wasn't until I became a little bit older, you know, not that many years later, when I started reading books like Man, Child in the Promised Land by Claude Brown, started reading about the Panthers in Oakland, Soul on Ice by Eldridge Cleaver. I mean, those are the kind of books that were laying around my house. And I had access to them. I picked them up and read it, and I'm starting to understand that the experience that I'm having as a child in Kalamazoo, Michigan, is related to the struggle of black folks just down the road on 94 in Detroit or the other way in Benton Harbor, but it goes beyond that. And I think that what Malcolm identified early on was, and I think that's where the recognition of how dangerous he was to the status quo, which is why the CIA and the FBI and other military organizations became so antagonistic to Malcolm X. Malcolm recognized the necessity of a pan-African movement, a worldwide diaspora connection, recognizing that our problems here in Oakland or in Wichita or in Atlanta are the same ones in Darfur, are the same ones in London, are the same ones in Rio de Janeiro. Wherever you have people of African descent, we're subject to the same pressures and the same problems.
I agree, 100%. Malcolm, for me, I changed, my perspective because of Malcolm, because I was heavily involved in the civil rights struggle and around 65, because I actually turned 20 in 65. And so I kind of graduated with other black men as we saw that the civil rights struggle had kind of reached this, or I say the civil rights movement had reached its zenith, and it was time to move ahead. And so Malcolm, his death, made us really know that it was time for a much more vociferous, active, and a more of a getting rid of the nonviolent stance. So I went from nonviolence to liberation struggle.
Dr. Davidson, did that coincide with the ascension of SNCC, which had those young lions who eventually became the Black Panthers, who said enough of this nonviolence?
Okay. Oh, beyond a doubt.
Yeah.
But they had always been there in terms of a more vigorous struggle. But at the table, when they sat down with many of the civil rights people, they decided to go along with that program because Stokely, Kwame Ture walked with King as well as Willie Ricks.
Yeah, Mukasa Dada, as he was known. And I remember reading an article quoting Willie Ricks, a.k.a. Mukasa Dada, and he said to Dr. King, not only do you need to reevaluate your nonviolent stance, which is fine for a movement, but on a personal level, you need to strap up. You need to have a gun, and you need to protect yourself, your personal body. And I've heard from varying witnesses, but some people say, like Willie Rick said, Dr. King actually bought a gun for his own personal protection. Now, I don't know that that's true, but I do know that it's true that he recognized that the threat to his life was real, and that him being moral and correct and an example of how people should be able to get along and discuss things and settle on things as men and women of good intentions isn't enough in this world. It's just not enough. And that's what Mukasa Dada was saying. Dr. King, you got to start carrying a gun. You got to protect yourself.
Malcolm, when he grew up here and went to school out in Mason.
Class president.
Yeah. And they told him there he should be a carpenter. Speak a little bit about that.
Well, normally aspirations for black people were to be domestic workers, not in the higher echelon of what we call careers and professions. So it's not unusual. I remember I had an incident as a sixth grader. They told me I couldn't play the saxophone because not trombone, but the cornet, because my lips were too big. It didn't dawn on me that Louis Armstrong had huge lips. But to discourage black people, to meaningful careers was just part of the paradigm of keeping us down. I mean, the old saying, if you black, get back. If you brown, get down.
Yeah.
If you white, you right.
Yeah.
So that their MO.
Get that something though? At that time, I mean, you not only had Louis Armstrong, you had the greatest trumpet players in the world like Dizzy Gillespie and Lee Morgan, and I mean I could go down the pantheon of great jazz trumpet players. Not to mention all the other musical instruments who electrified and changed music forever. But their lips were too big, right? Okay,
Yeah.
But
that's crazy.
But the thing about Malcolm, he learned so much. He picked up so much in such a short time, really. In 39 years.
He was a young man.
Yeah,
He was a young man at the time of his
yeah.
death. Yeah.
He picked up so much, and he was able to put a lot of it out there in those 39 years.
I mean, but that's pretty much where you pick up a lot as well too, with Bob Marley and others as well too. You're essentially in your prime, and be cut down in your prime. King was 39 as
Yes.
well too.
That's right.
Okay, so that at that point in time, your power develops at such strength that you reach your zenith, of influence, and just. Tragic, I think both King and he had mentioned about the gun. Malcolm didn't take his that night when he was killed as well either. So I think they instinctively, I hate to say that, but that the martyrdom would be their most powerful weapon.
Almost inevitable. Yeah, because Malcolm had people warn him that his life was in danger that very day. And that he was being followed, that he was being recorded. He had already had his home firebombed. He had both telephonic and letters threatening his life. And he decided that day to go ahead and go to the ballroom and give that speech because he thought it was important that he continued to get that message out and face down the threat. Now that's courage and bravery that I don't think I could ever muster in 5 lifetimes. But the man did it, and in doing so, he sacrificed his life. And there's a lot of let's say research into who actually pulled the trigger. And we can have that debate from this moment till the sun goes down. But I know who facilitated the murder, the FBI. And I know who augmented the FBI. It was the CIA. And they saw that man as an existential threat to the United States government's actions and ways of controlling its population. They could not afford to let an African-American population at that time might have been 18, 19 million. They couldn't afford to see us awaken and assert ourselves and change the political and economic paradigm in a way that was to our advantage. Because rather than see the pie get bigger and everybody do better. It's always been in my reading, Baba Davis, and maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong, but the attitude has always been zero-sum game.
Oh, yeah.
If they get something that comes at our expense and we won't have it anymore, rather than just leaving us free to be who we are, to exhibit the brilliance that we've had since time immemorial, since before history was even recorded. We're starting to find out now that the history of civilization that we're taught in school from the time that we're, third, fourth grade has been a big lie.
Oh, yeah.
And it's much older.
Yeah.
And it's much more advanced the deeper back in time you go, but it's also much blacker. And I think the findings that are being uncovered now confirm that. But again, they're not acknowledged. They're not readily made available to people because you have a power structure in this country that is, or in Western civilization for that matter. I'm talking NATO.
Yeah.
I'm talking even in the Asian powers, which is predicated on white supremacy. That's the foundation of it. And if you say that the Greeks didn't create civilization, the Greeks were students of the Africans, someone will look at you as if you lost your mind. But that's the truth. That's a plain fact of the matter. And a man like Malcolm X, who was well on his way to bringing awareness to black people worldwide of who they really were, they couldn't afford to let him live.
Actually, he did, I think, succeed. I think with the Organization for Afro-American Unity showed the international perspective. And even people say with Dr. King that when he became international dealing with the Vietnam War, that became the basis, for his demise.
Absolutely.
So both when it became even more than just the struggle within, but also the link with the struggle without is what caused their death.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, you saw with Dr. King, him give his most important speech, which is Beyond Vietnam, which he gave on April 4th, 1967.
Yep.
1 year to the day.
Before
Yeah.
He's assassinated,
Yeah.
April 4th, 1968. And in that speech, which was at, I forget the name of it now, but it's a famous church in New York. It's where
Not Abyssinia, was it?
Abyssinia.
Abyssinia.
Yep. And at that church and on that day, he said that the United States government is the greatest purveyor of violence in the world.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that we had to reconcile and come to terms with who we really were. Oh, that was his death warrant.
And Malcolm, he said, violence is as American as apple pie.
Sure did.
And indeed, they were on the same wavelength. And I still look at that picture of the two of them speaking, and I still say, I think they say, we're both dead men. That for what we stand for and what we will die for it.
Yeah.
Now, the organization that Malcolm had started, what was he trying to do with this organization?
Well, basically, unite the. I think he saw that we couldn't be at each other's necks. That the nation, the civil rights movement, the Black Power, not Black Power at the time, but a movement toward a more aggressive stand need to be coordinated, and as well as coordinated issues dealing with social and economic matters as well too. And I think he also wanted it to. I think move even toward the Caribbean a little bit as well too.
And Africa.
And so it was just Afro-Pro, the timing was correct. And this was in the midst of, because, during the civil rights struggle, Africa was being freed at the same time. In 1954, with Brown versus Board of Education, that's when Richard Wright actually wrote the book called Black Power.
Yeah.
In 1954.
Yeah.
But he was looking at Black Power from the African perspective. And you see from then on, you saw all the revolutionary struggles that occurred. So all the revolutionary struggles that occurred along the same period of time as we were in the civil rights Black Power struggle.
Probably best exemplified by Patrice Lumumba, who became president of the Congo, and he said he had intentions of nationalizing the assets. They were the epicenter of the world's rubber production. They had just begun to become a major producer of oil around the world. And Patrice Lumumba was like, this is ours.
Yeah.
We're going to use this wealth to develop our own country.
Yep.
And of course, he's taken out, kidnapped, tortured over periods of days, assassinated with a bullet to his head by a CIA operative, cut to pieces, and his body has never been found. I don't think people realize just the brutality of the act of taking that man's life. They did it in a way to say to the rest of the world, this is what happens when you get out of line. And that's around the same time that Malcolm lost his life. It was that same time period. So yeah, you had an ascension of understanding in the black diaspora that we're all in the same boat. We may speak different languages. We may have different traditions in cuisine. We may have different music, but that underlying rhythm, that underlying spirituality, that underlying connection to the universe is uniquely African. And we need to recognize that and come together and do what we need to do to ascend and free our people of this yoke that's been in place now for, at that time, 400 years. And now we're up to 450 years.
Yeah.
Good news is I think we're starting to see that happen. I really do.
I agree with you on that. I agree. Traore and what's happening in Burkina Faso and Niger and Mali, again, is coinciding with, I think, us being forced back into the struggle with Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know, we're back now organizing for ourselves rather than rolling along, you know, so again, Pan-Africanism is the impact, you know.
Near the end, I won't say the end of their lives, but that was a kind of coming together. And for me, Malcolm and Dr. King, they was working for the same thing, you know. They was working for the same thing, you know. They just going at it different ways.
Liberation of black vote.
Yeah, yes.
And I think they had two different understandings and two different diagnoses and two different prognosis of the problem because they came from two different directions. Malcolm came from a family of Garveyites who were proud of their blackness, who were proud of their African heritage, who were already in the 1920s talking about repatriating to Africa and having a type of diaspora recognition of our Africanness and our need to work together. That's what Malcolm was raised with.
Yeah.
And then, of course, with his brilliant mother and his brilliant father being taken from him at a young age and put in a foster home, he never had the opportunity to fully develop his intellect in a way that people typically do by going to university and studying and doing post-grad work. He never had that opportunity.
No.
Well, Dr. King, of course, he came up in a middle class, very economically blessed family that had an intact mother, intact
Big
father,
church.
who big church.
Yeah.
He went to Morehouse and
Crozier.
was it Boston University where
Boston
he
too,
got
and
his PhD?
Crozier, I
Yeah,
think.
so he went to some of the best
Yeah.
schools in the world.
Yeah.
So that perspective that he brought to the problem was more of an intellectual perspective and prognosis, where Malcolm, his teaching, I don't think you could deny it came from the street.
Right.
He learned he learned what it was like to be a hustler. He learned what it was like to be out there facing the lion face to face
Yeah.
every day
Every
when he was
day.
out in the streets hustling in
24
Boston, New
hours a
York.
day.
Then he goes to prison. He's educated by the Nation of Islam in just the basic fundamentals of how to read and write.
Yeah.
And he took off like a rocket ship. So you've got these men with two completely different perspectives and two different diagnoses of the problem beginning to merge, like you were saying, and recognizing that the way out of this thing is not necessarily the way I initially thought
Right,
it was.
right.
And both men understood that.
Yeah.
It was going to take some type of cohesion in the black community that wasn't just limited to the United States.
And King moved toward what he calls civil disobedience, which was essentially moving toward a much more, I say, vigorous approach to the struggle.
And you saw that with men like Walter Rodney in Jamaica. You saw that with black leaders all over the world starting to get to that position, and many of them turned up dead short time later. But what they had to say still lives on in us. We recognize the truth and the validity of what they had to say, and we also recognize what the problem is. It hasn't changed on their side of the equation. Donald Trump is a prototype European settler colonialist,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
He's all about the money.
Yeah.
He's all about the exploitation. He's all about himself.
Yeah.
There's nothing in him that says, I want to be a benefit and a uplifter of my fellow
Yeah.
man.
To everybody. Yeah.
Well, that's settler colonialism
Yeah.
in a nutshell. You see the same thing going on in Gaza. We have a genocide going on right
Yeah.
now where they're deliberately starving children, right?
Yeah.
We had American doctors say that there wasn't a day that went by in the 6 weeks I was there that I'd have at least one child present to me with a center mass shot to the chest or head. Snipers, right? We're seeing them bomb hospitals.
Yeah.
We're seeing them bomb ambulance drivers, shoot ambulance drivers. It's a genocide. Well, what's the objective of all that? It's to get them out of there,
Right.
take the land,
Yeah.
and control
Take
it.
the land,
And
yeah.
it's
In
repeated.
fact, Trump has said move 1 million to Libya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
and we had predicted this moment. You know, the nationalist movement had predicted that one day or hoped that one day, as Malcolm said, even in the speech I was just showing speech today about that he did at the Union in London, that this was going to be happening. So we're kind of at the point where he was saying that he respected the South Africans who preached apartheid and practice it, rather than America, who preached integration but
Practice
practiced
apartheid.
segregation.
Yeah.
And so he said he respected those who came straight out and told them exactly how he thought. And I think there was that prediction that one day that under white supremacy, that it would be pushed to where it had to come out straight out, no chaser. No
Explicit.
longer could you do it from the side and from the back. And we're at that point.
Is that the speech
We're
where he
at
made the
point.
analogy, the wolf versus the fox?
He might have as part of it,
Yeah.
because I
remember
just showed
reading about that.
an excerpt of it. So it might have been in there.
Yeah.
The part that I saw was 12 minutes, I think, at the end of the speech, the last 12 minutes of that speech. So I don't know where it started. It was actually a debate that was going on, debate at the Oxford Union. And but that's his point. So now we're going to see what our motto is now. I mean, who we are. Because no longer can some say, well, maybe they're going to be right, maybe they're going to do the right thing, and so on. That's over. I mean,
Yeah,
straight
yeah,
no chaser.
yeah.
So let's see where we go. And so I think it's a good moment. I think we're ready. I think we're ready. I think we.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I think we're ready.
How much time we got?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. In those years of Malcolm, what are some of the things that you pick up? You know, all those 39 years. Some of the things that you pick up that he said that you read about now.
Well, two things. Well, by any means necessary, violence is as American as apple pie, and that we really have to pull together in some type of organized fashion, such as the Organization of African American Unity, which I still think there's still some remnants of that.
So, where are we now then? He said that back in the 60s. Where are we now?
When he said that in the 60s, I did, and I'm not sure how totally accurate it was that black people, in when they look at middle class in terms of income, that in 1960 only 2% of black people were considered middle class. By 2002, it had risen to 50%. So we're not the same as we were then. And our efforts, I think, are predicated not necessarily on desperation, but facilitation of where our strengths are. We see how women have gone. We've seen, not that college education is the panacea, but we do see we have that. I tend to think we just need to declare ourselves as a nation. You know, don't use the land base as a factor. If you want to, just use that when you own your own home and etc. and add that together. But I think we need to do what the Republic of New Africa did, have a national plebiscite and just create our own nation with our own president, et cetera, too, residing within these confines if you're looking at the United States.
We wouldn't be the
That's
first to
what
do it.
I think we can do it now. I think we can do Booker T. Washington model now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if any way Malcolm could know what we're doing now, what would you say some of the things that we're doing right, and some of the things maybe we haven't gotten over, we haven't gotten up to, some of the things we might be doing wrong?
If I were to look at, and I think I'm kind of almost an eternal optimist, if I were to look at what we're doing wrong, it's just that we're just maybe moving too slow to consolidate our gains. But I think we're being pressured to do it quickly now.
Okay.
I think that Donald Trump has brought in the urgency, as King also said, the fierce urgency of now. And I think that now, and maybe, I don't know if it may have been a factor of survival or not, we're crisis oriented. We don't really move without a crisis element. But that's no excuse now. The crisis is here.
It's here.
What's your thoughts?
I agree. I think that out of necessity, you're starting to see black folks recognize what it is and not fool themselves into thinking that somehow we're going to blend into this multicultural, accommodating culture that loves us as equals. That's not going to happen. And I think that what I'm seeing, and maybe it's because I'm biased because I've got two young women as daughters who are very politically astute and aware. But I see in our young people, particularly led by our young women, a determination that I will spend my money and my time with those who respect my money and my time. And if you don't want me to work for you, if I can't be in your corporate suites, if I can't get contracts with your company as a supplier, et cetera, then I have really no business shopping in your store. I'm not going to go in there anymore. We will spend money with those who work with us. And if you look across the board, there's a lot of economic calamity that has been happening under Trump because of his foolishness with these tariffs and other things. But the bigger impact to Walmart, to Target, to Rite Aid, to Walgreens, you go down the list of these retail shops and some of these other major corporations, is the black dollar has pulled back. And we're not giving our money away freely anymore. We're being very judicious and circumspect about where we spend our money. And that hurts. And they feel that pain. And I think when that pain gets to the point where it's so acute that they can't move on, we'll get what we want. And I think that is a beautiful example of just one tactic that we can use, because there's others, and there's other objectives to be gained. But I think it's just recognizing that we have our own agency. We don't need to go to them and say, let us in your schools. We don't need to go to them and say, give us a job. All we got to do is say, treat us as you do any other person that you respect or else. And I think that's where we are.
Give me two things that when you think about Malcolm that you think about.
Oh man,
Two or three things right now.
Well, when I think of Malcolm, I think of a strong intellectual man who's an example. I can't tell you how many times I was in a position where I was about to speak or make a statement or write a paper, whatever, and I was thinking, Malcolm made this look easy, so who am I to be afraid? Why wouldn't I do what needs to be done? Yeah. What's to be afraid of? Malcolm showed me what I'm capable of. I'm not saying that I'm Malcolm X, but I could do my best to try. And I don't have to be these clowns and buffoons that they tell me that I am. I'm not that. That's my man. That's who I am. That, Mukasa Dada is my guy. Eldridge Cleaver, Claude Brown. I'm just a youngin', and I'm reading about these guys, and I'm thinking, that's who I identify with. Those are my guys. Roberto Clemente. I mean, you could go on down the line and see black men standing up with their chest out, being strong, being intellectual, being physically gifted, being musically gifted, whatever it was, and they didn't have to coon and clown to communicate. That's what I saw.
In the last 15 seconds, what do you think of when you think about Malcolm right now? What do you think about when you think of Malcolm?
Black power. That's an agency, an agency, black power and agency, and that's why I opened up the room on Malcolm X's birthday, because I thought he would want us to celebrate him with action.
Yeah.
Not just partying.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
With action.
All right, we could go on and on, but we'll stop right here, and we're gonna get back at this in a couple of weeks. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki. And we catch you down the next block for more Street Talk. Peace.
Good show.
Thank you.
But it ended too soon, so you can come back in a couple of weeks.
Oh, listen, anytime.
Yeah, we need to have more of these conversations.
Anytime, and see what's happening. 'Cause there's a lot. I just sent an article around that with the DEI among major corporations, only 8% of them have reversed their DEI. The others have either been silent or maintained.
Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. if you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.